Hey guys, Tammy here. And in this video, I'm going to talk about getting kids to talk to their therapist. A lot of times it takes a Herculean effort to be able to get a therapist in place for the child between getting the ex to agree or getting a court order and then actually finding a therapist that will work with children, finding a therapist that's currently taking clients. It's all just a battle. I have so many clients that struggle to find a good therapist. And then once you actually do and you get the kid started with them, guess what? Sometimes the kid isn't even actually talking. And that can be really, really frustrating. As we dive into this topic, let me just remind you, if you like this content, please hit like on the video. Also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And as always, please share this on social media to help me be able to have a greater reach. I need your help. I cannot do that by myself. So when you have this situation, a lot of times what is tempting to do is to kind of coach the child, I guess. I don't think we always sit down and specifically go, oh, okay, I'm going to coach the child on what to say. But we sort of feel a little desperate sometimes. And we're like, oh, you need to talk to your therapist about that. Why haven't you talked to your therapist? Have you told your therapist that? And we're kind of more like grilling them in a way. And we're looking for that answer. Well, did you tell the therapist? Did you not? Why didn't you? And that kind of thing. And I think that is really counterproductive. What that starts to do is make the child feel anxious and stressed about the situation. They can feel put in the middle. They don't really understand why they're in therapy. They don't understand, sometimes they're in therapy because our ex is a jerk, right? And we need that ally, honestly. But the kid doesn't understand that, and they have different levels of understanding of it at different ages. Maybe if they're more into teenagehood, they might understand that a little bit more, but they still aren't necessarily going to understand that the potential court leverage that comes from having that therapist in place. We can't really put ourselves in a position where we sit down and explain to them, oh, okay, you don't want to go to the other parents anymore? Well, guess what? If you talk to the therapist and tell the therapist all these things that are going on, then maybe that will help you not have to go see the other parent as much. Like sometimes that's what we want to say, right? Especially if we have concerns about the other parent's world that are really, truly safety concerns. By the same token, if you're a parent that feels like, well, the other parent is just sabotaging or they always manipulate the therapist or all this kind of thing. I find that most of the time, again, the therapist can be a huge ally because over time, the therapist is usually going to put those pieces together. If they're a decent therapist with any level of experience at all, they're going to put those pieces together and start to see what is really happening. Now, that usually takes longer than we want it to, right? And therein lies the rub. But you have to put the kid in therapy and kind of wait for that process to happen and to take place. Now, in the meantime, what you want to communicate to your child is just that this person is a safe person, right? And a lot of kids don't understand about confidentiality, which they actually have with the therapist unless they're, threatening to harm themselves or somebody else or something along those lines. And your therapist is also a mandated reporter, right? They report to child welfare when they feel that there is an issue. And so that can be really good because we sometimes, as the emotional co-parent, will go and report or do something that actually works against us. So I usually tell people, look, if there's a concern and your child's in therapy, the therapist, if there's a valid concern, the therapist will report it. So you don't need to feel the need to go jump and do that. Like let the process happen. Let the therapist make that judgment because they're the ones that are the non-emotional one and they're the expert in the case. What I always try to encourage children is just look, it's okay. You can be honest with this person. You can trust this person. This person's only there for you. I think honesty is like one of the big things. And that's usually a value that we're trying to teach our kids across the board anyway. So let's reinforce it with the therapist. You really need to be honest with this person. They can't help you if you're not honest with them. And a lot of times we're taking kids in because they're struggling in some way. A lot of times they are having anxiety, stress, depression, all those different things. And so you just want to say to them, you don't want to talk to them about, oh, they're going to help us with your crazy parent on the other side. You don't want to say something like that, but the crazy co-parent on the other side, a lot of times is the source, or we believe so, we suspect so, that they're the source of a lot of the stress and anxiety for the child. You just want to present it with the child like, hey, this person is a person that's on your side. They're here to help you deal with stress and anxiety and all the negative feelings that you're having. Those are totally normal. We all have them. Takes a while to kind of learn how to deal with that in life. And your therapist is there to help you with that and to be your advocate, but they can't help you if you're not being honest with them, or you're not telling them what's happening, or you're withholding from them. Okay, so just kind of having that open conversation, I think at the very beginning, to just say, this is somebody that is here for you, that you don't have to worry about hurting this person's feelings where mom or dad are concerned. They're there to listen to you and help you, and just help you develop some strategies, help to teach you some strategies for dealing with all that you're going through. Look, you're transitioning between homes. Your mom and I, or your dad and I, have separated. We're not together. And, that's a lot to deal with as a child. And this is just somebody that can be there for you and kind of listen and help you. I think that's how you want to present it. And then what will inevitably happen is your child is going to come in at some point. And usually they do this less and less the older they get, because they start to learn that things should not be shared between the mom's world and dad's world, right? But usually there will be little bits and pieces that will trickle out. I think especially when they start to get to be 9, 10, when they're old enough to kind of recognize that things are happening that aren't quite right. But then they're also old enough to kind of want some help or whatever. And so they won't say anything like really overtly a lot of times, but they'll just come in and say, when I was at the other parent's house, that parent said this to me, or that parent's new mate. A lot of times it's the new mate, the new girlfriend, the new boyfriend said this or that thing to me. And our immediate response usually is to either ask the child more questions about that, or to go to our trusty little communication app or text messages or whatever it is, and send a little note to the other parent and say, did you know that your girlfriend or your boyfriend said such and such thing, or your spouse or whatever it is? Or our child just told me that you said blah, 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 blah. That's abuse. That's emotional abuse. This is exactly what, you used to do during the marriage, and now you're doing it to our kids. And, it just goes down a slippery slope, right? And so a better response to the child is a couple of things. One, I always validate their feelings. I always say something like, sounds like that bugged you, or sounds like that really upset you, or something that's an appropriate response for how the child presented the information. And then I like to say, if it's something that's really about you, then I would just say that's really between me and the other parent, and you don't have to worry about it. But if it's something that's really impacting the child, then I say, that might be a really good thing to talk to your therapist about. Sounds like that upset you. And then you just move on. You don't act like you're telling them you need to talk to your therapist about this. Maybe if they're old enough and they can understand that kind of pointed look, you really need to talk to your therapist about this. Okay. But most kids that are a little bit younger are not going to pick up on that kind of wink, wink, nod, nod kind of thing. And so you have to just say to them, wow, that sounds like it was really upsetting. That's probably a really good thing to bring up with your therapist. I bet she could help you work through that. Or I bet he could help you work through that. And just kind of reinforcing that over and over and over as that comes up. Again, it's not a statement you're making every single day. It's a statement that you're making in response to the child anytime they bring up an issue of that nature and they are in therapy. And that's just kind of continually sending that message to the child subtly, hey, it's all right. You need to talk to this person about this. You need to talk to this person about this. You need to talk to this person about this. And eventually it will start to sink in. Usually it starts to take root and the child will kind of go, huh, okay, my parent is suggesting that I do this. Let me try it and see how it goes. All right. So, especially with teens, it's just peppering in those little suggestions as you get the chance. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP coaching. There's a link on that page where you can book a time to speak to a member of my staff and learn more about my coaching services and how I might be able to help you on this journey. See you guys next time.